The future of finance is already here, and most of the world does not know it. But regardless of what they know, it's happening regardless, right under our noses. And I have been sent here to help serve you with this knowledge so that we could not only understand the future of finance, but we could also align ourselves with this future. Whether that's investing, whether that's understanding, whether it's a combination of both. Okay, so let's get right into this. First, giving honor to God, who is the head of my life. And today we're going to be talking about the future of finance, of what that looks like. I'm going to try to keep it brief, but I also want to touch on a lot of different things when it comes to this future, because it's such a big shift in the world, and it's important because this is where wealth transfer is created. Okay, this is where us regular people that live at the bottom, that is clawing our way out of that crab barrel, we can now be able to do so with this shift. So right now we're gearing up to have one of the biggest shifts in the financial world that we lived in our lifetimes and in history. Okay, the world is about to change for life, whether you think so or not. Your kids will live off of this system. Okay, and it's important that we understand what this is. And this system that I'm talking about is called tokenization via blockchains. Okay, and what tokenization is a digital representation of a real world thing. Okay, so for instance, Apple Pay is tokenization. This is centralized tokenization. So the way Apple Pay is tokenization is your card on your phone is not just a digital button that's there. It's the token. You just see your card, but it's an actual centralized token that is a representation of your debit or credit card. Okay, this is one of the first variations of tokenization rolled out to the masses because it was easier. It was actually fixing a problem. So when you go to, let's say, a gas station or anything like that, you insert your card via the chip, but a lot of those card readers would have X6s. So what an X6 is, someone would stick like this little chip inside of where you insert your card, and your card information would automatically go loaded off into whatever that X6 was connected to. 9 times out of 10, the dark web. So you would wonder how, like, hey, how is my card? Someone just bought $1,000 worth of product on my debit card. It's because you probably put your card in one of those readers that had an X6. Someone sold your card information on the dark web, which is called the bin. And now, you calling your bank for a dispute and you got to change your cards. You got to do all this stuff. So Apple Pay came in, the first version of tokenization, fixing that problem. So all you got to do is tap to pay. And when you tap to pay, tokenization comes in, because now no card reader could have access to your card. They could only see the token, but the token is the digital representation of the card, so your card is not on file. They can't see your card number itself. Still to this day, if you don't use Apple Pay and you insert your chip, whether it's at Chipotle or Chick-fil-A or Target or Walmart, the merchant, which is those stores, could see your card information and it's in their system now. Of course, we trust those big companies and those corporations because we don't think nothing would happen with them, right? But if someone hacked into their system and now their data is breached, your card information is a liability. It happened with T-Mobile. T-Mobile had got exposed some odd time ago, and a lot of their users, millions of their users, information got leaked. That's why we're getting a lot of scam calls and scam likelies, because they have our emails and our phone numbers and our socials because of those breaches. Okay, let's just talk about stablecoins real fast. Stablecoins is tokenization 101. Okay, stablecoins is the tokenization of currency. So in the case of what we understand so far, USDC is the tokenization of a dollar. USDT is the tokenization of a dollar. All of these different stablecoins that has the USD, these are different variations of the tokenized dollar. So when we see a C at the end of that, that's just the issuer. For instance, Circle. When we see a T at the end of that, that's just the issuer. Tether. So we look at these things, and this is one of the first steps into tokenization. So Apple Pay was the first variation of tokenization. And stablecoins is the next big thing for tokenization, because we're going to need, when we move to these blockchains and we'll talk about tokenization of real world assets, we're going to need the dollar on these blockchains. Okay, this is a $1 bill right here. Okay, you see I have a $1 bill. There would be no way that I would be able to have this $1 bill on blockchain. So that's where stablecoins come in, because if we're going to be moving everything onto blockchains, the dollar must be represented so that there's a base value. Everything can't be raw crypto, meaning tokens like Bitcoin, Solana, Ethereum. It can't just be raw crypto, because when we get to a category like payroll, how will we be paid our $1,200 in Bitcoin, and Bitcoin's down on the day? So now my $1,200 check is $700 and I have bills to pay. Okay, so that's where stablecoin will come in, where it's the representation of the dollar. So if I have a $1,200 check, I would get $1,200 in stablecoin, and that $1,200 would be the equivalent to $1,200 regardless. Okay, so stablecoins for blockchain is just the dollar on chain. It's super simple. So you may still be wondering, why all these hoops? What are you talking about, Trey? Slow it down. All right. So let me slow it down real quick. The reason why stablecoins are being created, the reason why Apple Pay was the first version of tokenization, is because we're going to be tokenizing everything. Remember, tokenization is the digital representation of a real world thing. So everything will need to be represented a digital representation, meaning real estate, meaning cars, meaning land ownership deeds. Everything that you're buying right now in real time in our old system will be on blockchains, moving through smart contracts, smart ledgers. So everything will be automatically updated to the ledger, and once a sale happens, it automatically goes into the ledger, and it cannot be changed, it cannot be faltered. No more bank scheming, no more middlemen. Okay, so what is the problem with the system now? So basically what the new future of finance will be fixing, when we talk about digital assets and we're talking about blockchains and smart contracts, is all of the noise in the middle right now. So right now, if you want to go buy a house, you have to go through mortgage loans, you have to go through hoops, you got to do paperwork, you got to go through lawyers and do all of this extracurricular activity. What should be a quick process is now turning into a month or two drawn out, right? What blockchains is going to do is make everything easy payment, everything simple, everything fast and efficient. So instead of wires, instead of simple cash app payments taking so long, having so many fees, doing all of the extracurricular activity that it does now, everything will be instant. Global transactions will be instant. Cross-border payments will be instant. Fees will be on the pennies. It won't be large fees. Like for instance, if you cash at me $100 and now I want to take it to my bank, I can't even get my full 100 because I got to pay Cash App $3 to get it out immediately, unless I wait 1 to 3 business days. That's off the table. The same thing goes with wires. The same thing goes with cross-border payments. It's going to fix that. So the problem with that is it's taking power away from the banks. The reason why it's taking power away from the banks is because this is how the banks make their money. The banks been scheming on us for the longest. So they make all their money because of those fees, because they're the middleman that is moving the money cross-border. When you want to wire someone money or you want to send money to someone in a different country, different currency, you're going through your bank and your bank is converting that US dollar to, let's say, the British pound for someone that's in the UK. It takes time, it takes resources, and it takes fees. They're not going to do it for free. So with that being said, when crypto first was rolled out, the banks seen this as a threat. Like, wait, this is something that's targeting us, eliminated our role. So we cannot let this roll out. We can't let this happen. And that's why we've been in this drawdown for year on year in of the banks trying to push this aside as much as possible, because it's taking away their authority. It's taking away their role. It's taking away the way that the rich gets richer. And my last point to why the banks are making this so complicated is because of the deposits and the yield on stablecoins. So we start going to this system of blockchains and we're using money instant and we're having instant settlement time with low fees. Everyday people will want to shift over to just having stablecoins and just being on chain as opposed to being on bank. So with that being said, how else does the bank make all their money? They make their money by us letting them hold our money from deposits, from it sitting in their bank, because once it's sitting in their bank, they could use that money and they could loan it out, they could invest it, they could do whatever they want with that. So if we, collective people, we, citizens in the world, decide, hey, I don't want to use Chase no more. I don't want to use Bank of America. I'm going to go over here with these stable coins because they pay yield. So stable coins pays you back money. a higher percent than any interest you're getting on any bank. They pay you back to even sit money on stablecoins. So you're earning money as you're holding stablecoins, okay? And that's the incentive to switch people from on bank to on chain. And once people are on chain, it opens up the rails to everything. Remember, on chain is just for tokenization. So we're going to be able to buy houses, cars, deeds, land, you name it, on chain, okay? Even real estate. And that's where it really gets interesting. This might be another video because I might have to make this into a whole nother topic. But the topic of real estate is going to be so big because that's going to change the housing market. Now you can own fractional shares of houses. You don't have to be a realtor and have the most land and the most houses to be able to get your foot in the door. Now you'll be able to own 10% of property, 5% of property, because it's going to be tokens represented on chain. This is the future of finance, whether you know it or not, and it's about to change. It's right under our noses. We're just waiting on federal regulation. Why hasn't federal regulation happened yet? Because of the banks. Everything we just touched on, taking the bank's power, yield on stablecoins. The banks do not like any of this. So, in order for this bill to be signed, the banks and the crypto industry must come on one page to make a system that works, and then they will present the bill to the president. Whenever the bill is drafted, the president will sign it because President Trump is ready to get crypto rolling because we are behind. The country of America is behind right now because tokenization is already a thing in places like Dubai. They're already using stable coins for everything. They're already ahead of the curve. Of course, now, once we have regulation, we'll catch up, you know what I mean? And we'll be the crypto capital of the world, which our government wants so badly right now, which, hey, I'm not complaining because we're going to be in position when this happens. We're in all the right assets, right? But that's neither here nor there. This is the future of finance regardless. So it's very important that we understand this and we learn this. This is just like the internet being created in the late 90s, early 2000s. Those who understood this and invested into this are the ones that are running the internet now. Steve Jobs, he's passed, but Apple's still big. I got an iPhone. You're probably watching this on an iPhone or a MacBook or an iPad. Bill Gates, Microsoft, one of the biggest in the world. Okay, Amazon. They made their whole brand based off the internet, selling books on the internet, okay? These people were the first ones to bring us into the internet because they understood it, all right? So the same thing is happening now. The first people to be here on the future of finance, on these blockchains, building on these blockchains, understanding the blockchains, investing into tokens that align with these blockchains and these rails will be the ones running it in the 2030s and the 2040s. And it's all happening now. You could buy tokenized product now. So we must align ourselves and we must understand the future of finance. With all that being said, I'm going to wrap this one up, but we are going to definitely circle back to this topic and this conversation because this is big and this is all what we are about, and this is a wealth transfer that everyone could get into. I know we'd be like, we don't want to invest because the stock market is too expensive, stocks are too high. Well, crypto is early, so prices are low, but in a couple years you ain't gonna be able to afford any of this stuff. See, Bitcoin's already at 70K today, but it's been to 120K. That's just the standard of what other tokens can reach eventually. So it's important that we get into position and we understand systems. Now, I'm not saying every token gonna hit the moon, but utility tokens that will serve a purpose in the future will. So it's important that we first have faith in the Lord that we could guide our paths and he could introduce us to those right tokens, and two, have clarity in what can fix the future. Find outdated systems and what are those fixes, and that's where we align our assets. Make sure you like, comment, subscribe, send this to someone who doesn't believe in God so that you could ultimately introduce them to our Savior and our Lord Jesus Christ and invite them into the gates of heaven. Send this to someone who does not understand investing so that you could potentially introduce them to investing and introduce them to the best way of financial freedom. With all that being said, we'll be back with more videos, Lord willing. Y'all have a blessed week.
It's so sweet to trust in Jesus, just to take him at his word.